What you streaming?
Hey y'all.
Hey everybody.
Welcome to the What You Streamin' podcast. I'm Allie.
This is Katie.
And we are your hosts of this fantastic little podcast called What You Streamin'. In this week's episode, we are talking about the Australian film, An Ideal Host. We actually shared our thoughts on An Ideal Host in our episode about the Nevermore Film Festival, which if you have not listened to it yet, definitely give it a pause here and go listen to the Nevermore Film Festival episode, because we kind of dive into An Ideal Host a little more in that episode. But to kind of summarize our thoughts on the film, to put it simply, we fucking loved it. It was amazing. I think it was probably one of our top films that came out of the Nevermore Film Festival. And with that, Katie.
Here's a note for all our listeners. We will probably spoil it. So just, be ready. If you haven't watched it and you want to, which we hope you do because it's great, we thoroughly encourage you to go and do that and then come back to us and have a chat with Robert, because this is going to be real fun. We're glad you're here today.
Yes, we are so very excited that we have Robert Woods on the podcast with us today. And Robert is the director of An Ideal Host. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about the film.
We're excited to kind of learn more about how you filmed it and kind of dive into the behind the scenes type of info. So yeah, really excited for this episode to provide listeners with just a little bit of a movie summary. An Ideal Host is a comedy, horror, sci-fi film that was released in 2020 and is written by Tyler Jacob Jones and, of course, directed by Robert Woods, who is with us today. And according to the IMDb synopsis, Liz just wants to host the perfect dinner party, but an unexpected guest sends the evening into chaos with potentially apocalyptic consequences.
Yes. That's my very sly summary.
Oh, nice. I actually forgot that Katie and I were talking prior to hopping on to record with you about what we thought the film was about, just from like the summary. And I don't know if I missed it in what we read, but I missed the whole alien aspect of the movie and didn't know that was a part of it until we got into the film. So that was a nice little surprise.
That's good. That's the idea. That's the idea. Yeah.
I definitely thought it was going to be, I don't know what I thought it was going to be, honestly. So
realistically,
well done.
And honestly, she'll be honest with you. She, it wasn't really something that she would have
Didn't
picked
want to
out.
watch it.
Yeah, because it was in the comedy section of the film festival, and so that was really more like me saying we're going to watch this, kind of thing. And she was, if we gotta, and then just blew us away. We were like, heck yeah, man, this is what we're talking about. This is good stuff.
That's great.
It was a real treat. It was a delight.
Yes, I was glad Katie overrode my, I'm not a huge fan of comedy movies, but I love horror movies. And I couldn't have been more into it. It was so good. And the film was nominated at the 2021 Nevermore Film Festival for the Jury Award for Best Supporting Actress. And it won Best Horror Comedy and Best Screenplay at the 2020 New York City Horror Film Festival. So congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've kind of already said we absolutely love the movie. It had some, I don't know, there were moments where we were like, oh shit, no, they didn't. Especially with like the twist. I thought it was going to be a whole thing with when she saw her soon-to-be fiance, like the kissing thing. I was like, oh, that's the story. That's why it's going to go to shit. And then to find out, no, that's not the case.
Story.
It's our red herring.
Even though I knew, and I can't say that for sure how I knew the aliens were in the mix, because I can't remember how exactly they had it listed in the film festival kind of description and stuff like that. I mean, things were all over the place. We were trying to absorb so much information. Our brains were like real mushy. And then they had a little quick kind of interview with you right at the beginning of the film before they actually got into it. And so I just really don't know how I knew there were going to be aliens, and I still didn't catch on. That's what was going on. I was like, oh my goodness, candle. That's what's happening. Okay. And then it was like, oh, but wait. When we figured it out, you know, we were just like, oh, we're so smart. We were not so smart. It was so
That's
funny.
great. Yeah. I like to catch the audience by surprise. That's our number one goal, is to keep the audience on their toes, not get too complacent.
No. Just the timing of the way you kind of set everything up in the film was kind of just beautifully done, because you start with, you know, you think it's going to be this dinner party, and you have these two individuals that want to seem perfect to their friends that are coming over. And then it just devolves into this like absolute shit show. And then at the end, there's just like, I mean, there's a moment where
it gets pretty rad, man. Like,
like the gore and what was it, like an elbow snapping or something? I mean, it just goes bananas towards the end, and it was just like beautiful. It was so good.
The buildup was definitely just the right amount, right? Like, we didn't feel like we were getting, you know, kind of like, where is this going? You know, we didn't feel like any of that. It was really just like, once we were in it until the very end. And so, yeah, it was really great. Like, you guys did a phenomenal job.
Thanks. I was just gonna say, I wanted to make something that my parents do not watch horror, and I am a massive horror fan, and I wanted to make something that by the time it got into the horror, it was too late. They had already invested 80% of the film. Like, there's no getting out of it now. They had to watch it. Like, showing someone that doesn't like horror this film, and they'll get into it, and by the time it turns into horror, and they're like, I've gotten in too deep here. It's gone too far. It's too late.
You're already having a good time with it. Why not? Just keep going. Just keep going.
No backing out. What got you? You just said you're a huge fan of horror, which obviously make a horror movie. But what got you into horror? Did you grow up with it a little bit?
I guess, well, I'm the youngest of three. So my older brother and sister would watch like action films and films like, you know, Terminator 2 and Aliens and Predator. My brother loved, and I saw them when I was like 4 or 5, and they did freak me out quite a lot, left quite an imprint in my brain. But that, I think the old 1950s War of the Worlds was another one that I saw, and it like traumatized me. But in doing so, it led to a lot of like self-research to find out everything about the film, to find out everything about the genre, to find out all other films that are like it, and how they made it and how it was put together, because I needed to know why I was so scared. What was it that triggered this response in me? And then it became a mission of like, how can I do that too? So yeah, it really ignited a lifelong passion with science fiction and horror and just filmmaking in general.
I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I enjoy horror films as well, is kind of getting that feeling of being scared, or like something is behind you and there's nothing there, you know, like that's something I enjoy the most about horror films. So I love that you kind of like dove into that to figure out the why behind that feeling, and then just kind of fell into it. They seem to be harder and harder to come by as you grow up and get used to reading the genre and the language of film and how everything works. But every now and then a film will come across that will just bypass your suspension of disbelief and get into your chest and go and just squeeze, and you're like, oh, there we go, there we go, that's it. And you get this like little high from being traumatized.
From being traumatized.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
So Allie knows, like, she's the big horror fan, and I am not necessarily. Not that I don't enjoy horror films or like psychological stuff. Like, if it's gonna mess with me, you know, I'm down for it. But at the same time, like, it's not gonna be my first go-to, because it is really an experience.
Seek that out.
For me.
What kind of crazy person seeks that out?
But she knows, she's seen it, where I have this experience in real life. Like, if we go to haunted houses all the time. Yeah, haunted houses and stuff like that. There's this reaction that I have. Well, I'll giggle a lot. I laugh. Like when I get real nervous, I'll start laughing or scared. And so people, but also one time I was just standing there. Like I'll just be standing somewhere and it's like I have this beacon over the top of my head that says, please come and fuck with me. And people will do it. And I'm like, no, I don't need this. But, you know, I was scared by things like velociraptors when I was little. So
yeah,
you can pretty much throw anything at me and I'll be scared. I still will like get down with it. We have a friend who absolutely will not do horror films. And, you know, we felt like we told her about An Ideal Host and said, you could definitely watch this. It gets a little gory toward the end, but you could definitely watch it and enjoy it because it's not that real super spooky kind of stuff, you know. But so that's, I think too, that's one of the things that I liked about it was that it wasn't just a scary movie, you know. It had all these different elements to it and you could basically pull anybody into it. And then, like you said, then they're stuck there. And they're stuck there and they're having a good time. And damn it, that's what's going on.
Yeah, it's our first film and it could very likely be our only film. So we wanted to cram in everything that we loved about film into it. So we just kind of shoved it all in there.
No,
it works like a turducken.
It was wonderful. Yeah, it very much gave me like Body Snatcher vibes towards the end. Like the closing scene where like all the townspeople are just like walking towards her. I was like, oh, yes, like Body Snatchers, like last person standing. It was really enjoyable. But that's us, we're fangirling a lot over the film. But we do have some questions for you. And I'm going to turn it over to Katie and put you in the hot seat.
All right. So as Allie mentioned earlier, we saw An Ideal Host as part of the Nevermore Film Festival, which was hosted by the Carolina Theater of Durham here in North Carolina. And we thoroughly enjoyed it. And like we said, unexpectedly, you know, we didn't even know what we were getting into. So it was a gem. So what we want to know about you today, Robert, is how did you get into the film industry and what has that journey been like? So going from a young sir getting, you know, his pants scared off of him to wanting to tell these stories, like how did you get?
I guess it started, from watching a lot of movies and becoming obsessed with them. And I still just watch every movie that comes out that I possibly can, and wanting to tell my own stories and getting into writing and filming, getting a video camera when I was 10 and starting to just make shorts and figure out editing and that side of the post side of things and how you piece together images to tell a story. After high school, I went to uni to study a film course here in Perth at a local university. And I got a degree in film and television with a minor in multimedia design. I taught myself After Effects and learnt some compositing tricks and just simple things like that, and managed to work freelance for a couple of years and then get on board with a local production company here that I've been working with for many years now, which is nice to have a steady job in an unpredictable industry. It's great. So I've been working as an editor for the last decade or so, and that's been great. Yeah, I'm trying to get more into directing and making my own things now.
I'm always very impressed by people who kind of figure out what their passion is at a young age and then actually follow it through into adulthood. Like, I think that's just like one of the coolest things. And like, it
is strange because I've known, I guess since I was 8 or 9, I wanted to direct movies. That's all I wanted to do. And that has never changed. And it's just everything I've done has always been towards that goal. So yeah, I am very lucky in that sense. Yeah.
It sounds like you've taught yourself kind of a lot of what goes into kind of the behind the scenes, and you've done kind of like the visual effects type of work on films before. And you and your writing partner, Tyler Jacob Jones, who was one of the writers on An Ideal Host as well, you've collaborated a lot on musical theater projects, and it sounds like other projects. What kind of inspired you to make that jump from musical theater and kind of visual effects and behind the scenes and like into the director's chair? What was that moment, I guess, that you were like, yeah, man, I'm gonna fucking make a movie. Let's do this.
Well, yeah, Tyler and I have been working together for about a decade now, and we met up originally doing like community theatre shows. I got roped into doing a lot of community theatre shows because I was one of the few friends that my music theatre nerd friends knew that could, hold, one of the few guys that could hold a tune and dance competently. So I got roped in a lot, and I do enjoy performing. It's not my main passion, but I'm always happy to jump on stage and help out and play a small part here and there. But I also love writing music and composing. So I had an opportunity with a youth theatre company here to write a musical. I told them, you should stop wasting all your money paying for the rights for big musicals and let the youth write it as well as direct it. And that was their mantra, that the kids could do everything. And they said, yeah, sure, go for it. So I wrote a musical, and Tyler came along and saw that, and we got to talking and said we should collaborate on a movie. Like, let's make a musical. We were going to make a high school zombie musical that is now like 30 drafts deep and kind of abandoned in a drawer somewhere, but there's like remnants of it all over the place. But from that, yeah, we started making musical theatre together, and I guess we did that for a while and became quite successful at it. We were doing fringe shows that were winning awards and then winning grants to tour internationally. And so we were performing all over the place. And suddenly this fun little hobby that was like something fun to do with friends on the weekend was suddenly taking up a good portion of the year and involved, a lot of producing and organizing flights and costumes and props to tour, and figuring out how to take a double bass, 3 keyboards and a saxophone and a trumpet on the UK underground to get to Brighton Fringe Festival, and like a lot of just logistical nightmarish stuff that was like, this isn't fun anymore. This is too much like hard work. It's like, it's lovely winning awards and being acknowledged for your writing and your composing, but yeah, this is a bit much for me. And I said, I feel like I'm getting further and further away from that initial idea of making a movie. And I've been working as an editor all this time, editing other people's stuff. And every day I just sit there going, oh, that's not how I would have directed it. But I guess I can't say anything because I'm not the director. And it was just like, it got to a point where I just put my foot down and said, no more. I refuse to write another note for one of your musicals. And it took like another 3 years, but then Tyler got to the same place and he was like, yeah, I'm there now, I'm done with this. So when we were kind of both on the same page, right, doing this, I had made a couple of web series, and I'm comfortable with like making things for no money. I said, let's just jump in and make something to see what we could do. Basically, we wanted to rip that Band-Aid, get the first one, kind of like the first scripts that we wrote for this high school zombie musical called Zombie Girlfriend. We kind of wrote it and then threw it aside. Like, no one ever needs to see that. It's silly. It doesn't work. We haven't figured out the hook yet. Let's do the same thing with a film. I've got money I've saved up from 10 years of working with this company. Let's put it towards trying to make a film. Because what we found with our first musical was like, the first musical was fun, it was silly, it doesn't all work, it's not great, but once you've done it, then you put it aside and you start the next one and you've learnt everything on that first one, and then you can take the next step. And so we thought, well, that's what we'll do with this movie. We'll make something, and whatever happens, we'll just keep going. And if we don't end up with a finished product, that's fine. We'll just have like, hopefully we'll have some scenes that will be great for like show reels. for pitching to arts grants and other production funding avenues to try and get people on board with saying, hey, this is the kind of style of stuff we want to do. So that was the initial plan. Yeah, we kind of just thought we'll write it the same way we've written all of our fringe shows, which is very haphazardly in like a couple of months. And we organized it around the current fringe festival that was going up later that year. We said, instead of performing for 2 weeks, performing a musical that we've just written, we will just be shooting for 2 weeks. It's the same timeline, right? Which is when we start to realize that film and theater are quite different things. And
so that kind of leads into another question we were going to ask you is, you spent that 2 weeks shooting. Would you do that again? Is that something that you would knowingly go into?
I would absolutely shoot for 2 weeks again. However, I wouldn't give myself like a month of prep. I think I would give myself a longer preparation time to lead up to it, because 2 weeks was enough time. It was more than enough time. I guess I say that now. Looking back on it, it was very like, okay, we got one take. It's fine. It wasn't great, but let's just keep moving. That was pretty much every day on set. It was like that. It was just get through it as quickly as possible. But we weren't shooting full days because we only had a crew of 4 people. It was just a bunch of friends on a farm and making stuff for the love of it. So everyone was pretty chill and having fun, and we
that's
moved
great.
pretty quickly because we didn't have equipment or anything. So
yeah, well, that's great to hear, because we hope you guys had fun, because it looked hilarious. It looked like somebody was having fun making it. So if somebody didn't have fun making that, what a shame.
Yeah, there's no point in doing it if you're not having fun doing it, especially since I'm asking so much of my friends to give up 2 weeks of their life during the school holidays to come down south and do all this work essentially for free for me. So if they're going to do that, they better be fed, and they better have somewhere to sleep, and they better have a fun time. That was I think that was more of a priority than finishing the film. Was that it's just a fun thing, and everyone was on board. Everyone was up for the challenge of this adventure of seeing if we could make a film or not. And yeah, I was surprised, but we did manage to cobble together a finished product, which was incredible.
Yeah, when I first heard that it was shot in 2 weeks, I was like shocked. I couldn't believe that it was done in 2 weeks, because you always hear about movies like taking so long to be made and like everything behind it. But yeah, 2 weeks to shoot the whole thing is amazing. And I feel like you could tell that everyone in the film that you guys were friends. Like, I feel like that came through in the filming, which, knowing that, brings like a whole other like bit of joy to having watched it, and knowing that like everyone had such a good time filming it makes me, I don't know, I feel like I like the film more now, knowing that, you know what I mean? Like,
that's nice. Yeah, some nice camaraderie.
Kind of like you said, Robert, where you saw these films like giving you these feelings, and you had to like find out how they were doing it and why, like all the ins and outs of it. And so I think it might be kind of the same thing happening here, where we enjoyed it so much, and then getting to know the behind the scenes stuff just really kind of reinforces like, oh, this is just well done. We love it. Well done.
Great.
And just also, what an amazing experience for all of you, and it being your first time. And I mean, like, like, kudos for this being like the first. You're like, yeah, we'll give it a go and we'll see what happens, and you end up with this like a just brilliant film. And it's, I mean, that's, I don't know, it's so cool. It's
it's years of imagining and planning have come to fruition in this film.
Yeah, and good for you, because I mean, that's a hard step to take sometimes, to really just kind of, like you said, put your foot down.
Well,
and say, I'm going to do this now.
really was putting my foot down, and really was years of wanting to make a feature, and also like having applied to actual like proper grants and trying to do it the right way through the available avenues, and just getting rejected and shut down, and having worked in the industry for so long and still people only seeing me as an editor and not as anything else, and making these web series off my own back, trying to get a show reel together, say, look, I do other things, come on, but just kept getting put back in that box. So this was like, no, it's not going to happen unless I make it happen. We'll never get something done unless we do it ourselves, and they can see that we're responsible enough to see something through to the end. So it's been great going to all these festivals now and getting recognition, because that's great on my resume now. Filling out my CV with all these awards. It's great.
Hopefully the start of bigger and better things, I mean, not to say, so better, because it needs to be better, but just, actually being able to get the help you need sometimes.
Yeah. Oh man. I had a cinematographer lined up to shoot with like these beautiful red helium cameras, 8K, like 2 of them. Another guy was going to come down. We were going to shoot 2 cameras. So I was like, that's half the time I need, because we'll have double the coverage. And then like a week before, he got cold feet and pulled out and took all his equipment with him. And so that whole shooting plan kind of went out the window, and ended up being like, well, I guess I'll have to shoot it myself with just my little DSLR and make it work with the lenses and lights that I have, which was like, a floodlight from a hardware store. I was like, this will do, right? I don't know.
It did.
Yeah,
it did.
It did. That's just that idea of like making it work with whatever you've got on hand. Just don't worry about it. Just keep going forward. And a lot of it was like relying on the material and the actors to be good enough that you'll forgive the very obvious technical mishaps that happen along the way.
So how has reception across, the world, I guess, because you guys have been in a couple of festivals and you're still kind of rolling, right?
Yeah, we're going, I guess, through to the end of the year, I suppose. But yeah, we started right at the kind of the just a couple of weeks after COVID sort of took off. We've been riding the festival wave while all of our theatre friends have been out of work. We've been touring, and it's like, we got into the film business right at the right time. Being able to tour a story around the world and meet all these wonderful people virtually and has been incredible. Yeah, we started off in my hometown here. I figured that would be the only place that would take the film, and they played it at a virtual festival here. And after that, I thought, I may as well send it out and see if anyone else would show such a scrappy thing from amateur filmmakers. And it's played at a drive-in theater in LA for Screamfest, and it played in the UK at Grimfest and Soho Horror Film Festival, and it's played at a bunch of places in the US, in Austin with Other Worlds Film Festival, a science fiction film festival, and Nevermore, New York Horror, where we won some awards, and Nevermore, where we won a whole bunch of awards too. The International Award for Best Picture, and Nadia won Best Actress. So that's been great. And we just finished Panic Fest, and I hope we'll get some more coming soon.
Yeah, that'd be great for you guys to just keep on rolling. And then, the rest of the cast and, the writer, Tyler, is everybody kind of feeling the same way about the reception y'all are getting, or some people a little more like, what?
I think,
what are they talking about?
I think they're more like because I think I drilled it into them all that this was probably like 50% likely to never get done, and that we were just doing this for fun, and I'll give you a show reel scene at the end of it, I promise, and that's all I promise. So I keep posting like, oh, we just played this festival over here and we just won this award, and they're like, what? That little thing, that time that we spent a week or 2 weeks down there just running around a farm screaming, that was that eventuated in something. It is a bit weird. It's a bit of a shock to them, I think. But yeah, no, it's great. Tyler's loving it. I'm loving it as justification for not focusing so much on theater. It's like I feel vindicated.
Yeah.
Justified,
Well, yeah, it probably does kind of make you feel a little guilty that you were like, nope, I can't do that right now. I want to focus on me. I want to do something for me.
Yeah, very much so.
I saw one of your other interviews where you talked about how all the actors and as well as people behind the scenes are from the same improv kind of troupe or company. And so I was curious as to how much of what actually made like the final cut, like was any of that kind of improvised? The comedic timing was perfect, but yeah, I was curious as to how much improv actually took place during filming.
Yeah, there's a couple of scenes. It's not so much a dialogue that was improvised. The dialogue that Tyler wrote it's his very theatrical styled writing, his very quick paced, annoyingly witty writing that he does so well. So that writing didn't really change, and they all performed it brilliantly to the word. I think it was more it was in the non-verbal scenes that we really just made stuff up on the day. A lot of the like, how are we gonna drown someone? I wrote, she runs and hides in the trees, and that became like a whole scene. We didn't know what we were doing. We just like running around like, I don't know, just hide up this. Maybe someone's coming. Maybe it's a cow. I don't know. So a lot of like, Kyle looking through the bedroom, trying to find them. All of that stuff was like, the first night there. And we're like, well, let's make up a sequence and let's just see what happens. Try things out. And we tried a couple of different ways, and we'll fix it in post. That's my domain. That's gonna be a problem for later, Robert, to deal with.
Yeah, future Robert.
Yeah, and that happened a lot. I had a lot of future Robert problems that I had to deal with. Took a long time, but yeah, I think the main thing about having a cast of improv comedians that had all like toured together and performed together for so many years is that even with the scripted dialogue, they're just on the same wavelength, and they know how to live in each other's presence on stage and off stage, and they know like how each performer is going to deliver their lines and can feed off that. So it didn't take rehearsal really, like just a read through before, and they got it. They understood the humor and they could just jump in and do it. So yeah, there was like one or two of them that weren't from that improv group, but like they just slotted in and got with the vibe. And I think the whole vibe of improv comedians just being willing to go with whatever is thrown at them at any given moment is like, that's the spirit of this film.
Oh yeah.
Both in the making of it and in what happens.
Yeah. So good.
The result was delightful.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I feel very lucky that's the case, because it felt so chaotic making it that it is a little surprising that it came together as well as it did. I guess I should have more faith in the process.
That's when you said this, you referred to it as like your scrappy little film or scrappily made or something. The fact that you like shot on your DSLR camera and whatnot, like maybe it's just because I'm, like a normal person viewing it, but like you couldn't tell, like it like the production seemed great. Like you couldn't tell.
It's like a real production.
It was like a real movie.
It was like a real movie. That's what I keep saying to myself. It's like, it is. It's like a
real film.
Funny.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's one of those things where even with big pictures and stuff, you still run the risk of however you go about your business. And even if that's pre-shooting or post-editing and all that kind of stuff, like, you still run the risk of doing something that pulls people out. Like once you get in, if something happens and you're like out of it and you can't get back into it, like you've kind of thrown off the whole thing. And I think that may be what Allie's getting at, is that once, like I said, once you started it, you were in it and then you didn't get out of it and you were there till the end. I think if a story can keep us there, then it's doing its job. It doesn't have to really do a whole lot else in like some sort of crazy fantastical way, but I would like it to keep me there. I do want to stay there. I want to be in that thing, you know. So
you want it to make
I
it
think it did
easy
that very
to
well.
suspend your disbelief.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't want to be thrown something that I gotta, you know, hey.
Well, that's something that when Tyler writes, and I find it incredibly frustrating, but it's his process, is that when we plan a story together and we kind of outline it and figure out the basic beats of the story, kind of structure it out, and then I presume, like in my head, that what you do is then you go off and you write a draft of that following that structure, and then you go back and fix things and change things and rework it. But Tyler doesn't do that. He starts writing from the start, and he'll write and he'll stop when he comes up to something that he doesn't feel flows naturally. And if it doesn't, and he knows what he wants to happen next, but it's not there, he'll go back and he'll rewrite from the start. And he'll keep going up to the next point, and then he'll like, oh, no. And then he'll go back, and then he'll rewrite from the start again and keep writing. And I think the start of the film and the end of the film, the most important things to him. And he rewrites the starts of all of our musicals and of this movie like 30 or 40 times before there's a first draft.
Oh my gosh.
So like he just wants the exposition and the character setups to be the most efficient and quick way. And if he can refine it and make it quicker, make it simpler, he'll do that. He'll like just keep rewriting. But it means that we're like 2 weeks away from shooting and we don't have a first draft yet. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, what are we making? We've got a great first act here, but yeah, it's really nerve-wracking. But yeah, we get there eventually.
Yeah. I was going to say the dinner party was a great way to introduce everyone, and the car ride up. I can't remember the character's name, unfortunately, but the Tinder date.
Yeah.
Oh my God. My favorite character.
Who's our favorite character? Yeah.
So good.
He ended
so
up being
good.
our favorite. Like as soon as it really like kind of he started jumping in a lot more, we're like, wait a minute. It was really good.
He's a lot of people's favorite character. It's interesting. We have done 1 or 2 musicals where we've always had the other character. Like there's a group of this many and there's just one of them that we never flesh out completely. Or we were just like, he's the quiet one. He's the one that doesn't say anything. Or he's the one that says something, but everyone always shuts down. So we just don't know about them. And that allows us to like, once we get into the second act, we can like, we need someone that can have this skill set. And like, well, yeah, this person can have that. Yeah, it's a fun little thing that we've done before. And I think we'll plan to do it again as well, because it always delights audiences.
Yeah,
it works. Because at first, you kind of go, what is wrong with this guy? Like, what is wrong with him?
Yeah.
Not quite right. What is going on?
Oh,
so you're like, oh, no, wait, he's probably the smartest, most logical person there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a fun little trip. So I had a quick question that I thought of because I thought to myself, So, Robert, if you were having a dinner party and the aliens were trying to get all up in your mouth space, would you fight it or would you just go along with it?
Oh, I probably would fight it. If I'm pretty standoffish.
They had that whole kind of thing where they were like, no, it's gonna be okay. We're not gonna hurt anybody. You're like, do I believe you? I don't know.
I would not trust. No, there's no way I would trust even close friends. Because everyone knows I'm such an introvert. Firstly, I would never host a dinner party. Secondly, I would never let anyone close to my personal space. And my friends know that. They know I'm not a hugger. They know they would never get anywhere near me. So if someone, like a close friend, was trying to get close to me, I'd be like, something is wrong. Something is very wrong here, because you know that this is not okay with me. Yeah, I guess, yeah. I'm working out a lot of issues in this movie. Clearly.
Oh my gosh.
To make sure the aliens know that you're a fighter.
Yeah.
That was another like awesome, the like great part about the movie was like how the aliens they were worried about like upper management. Essentially, they were like, damn, like we're just getting our job.
Yeah, we really wanted every character to feel like they're an ideal host, that they're doing something to please someone else, that every character in this film, including the aliens, are putting on a facade to try and look better than they are, and that they're trying to keep up appearances. Basically, that was our, once we figured that out, like we struggled with what the aliens would be for a very long time, not just in terms of practicality, like how we can show an alien with no budget, but also like what is going to make these aliens different to every other alien parasite that takes over. And when we cottoned on to that theme, that kind of freed up the whole end of the movie. We're like, there we go. That makes them funny. That means there's comedic moments that they can have as well. It gives the aliens a bit of a fun thing to play, and it gives the actors something to do. So yeah.
Well, yeah, because they end up, they have personality. At that point, they're not just the destroyers for the invaders. They're actually like, oh, like us. So it makes them more relatable. I think
it's so bureaucratic. And inefficient as well. I kind of like it. Like they're really dumb.
Yeah. Too funny.
Yeah, it's really hard to write intelligent characters, because you've got to always be thinking many steps ahead. But writing dumb characters is so fun. so and it's something that you can do. You can like, they can make bad decisions. Like every horror film, people make bad decisions. You go, why are you doing that? But in this case, it's like you've set up that they don't know what the hell they're doing. So it's like, it's kind of, you can get away with murder for some of this. Like, we're just like, if we just go as fast as possible and make it as clear as possible, the audience won't know. We'll paper over all the cracks and the plot holes, and it'll be too late.
Yeah. You did a good job.
Yeah.
If you're like me and you're just getting started with podcasting, it can be scary and overwhelming. That's why Anchor is such a great choice. It's one of the easiest ways to make a podcast, and best of all, it's free. It also has great creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Another great feature of Anchor is that they'll distribute your podcast for you. Your listeners will be able to access your podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many others. You can also make money from your podcast using Anchor, and that's with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place, and it's easy to use. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
Before we wrap up, we would like to know, what have you been streaming lately? What are some recommendations that you have? It could be movies, TV, music, YouTube.
Oh, there is a movie that I, living in Australia, in Perth specifically, was fortunate enough to see in the cinema, and I know pretty much everywhere else in the world did not get to see in a cinema. And it was a really fascinating horror film that I don't believe 100% works, but I do believe that it doesn't matter. Everyone needs to go out and see this movie because it's so ambitious and amazing that even though it doesn't all work for me, I think it's such an incredible effort, and the fact that it got made at all is mind-boggling to me. There's this film called The Empty Man that is now streaming, and it was a Fox film that then there was a regime change at Fox, and the new head of the studio didn't like it and just like held it on the shelf and didn't know what to do with it. And then Disney bought it, and Disney didn't want anything to do with it. And they famously released a trailer for the movie a week before it came out in cinemas during the height of COVID. So like they buried this film, right?
Yeah.
And it's called The Empty Man. And I was like, oh, this is just going to be like a creepypasta Slender Man style. Like, yeah, I know what this is. And it's not that. It's like a quarter of that, but it's another like one, kind of what you were talking about, my film, where you go and you start watching and it just takes a turn and you sit there watching it going, where the hell is this film going? What is it doing? And it encompasses like all of these subgenres of horror that I absolutely adore. So I recommend The Empty Man for a movie for horror lovers. Give it a shot. Check it out. It is over 2 hours long. It is a studio movie that is beautifully shot, and you've never seen a horror film have such gorgeous production design and filmmaking and cinematography behind it from a major studio. Like, for what the film is, it's incredible. Yeah.
I have to watch that one.
I guess
we'll put it on our list.
Yeah. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. One of the reasons is because I saw it in October last year, and no one in the world had seen it. And I was going out of my mind going, I need to speak to someone about this film. I need to break it down and figure out what the hell was going on. How did this get made? How is it so gorgeous and beautiful? And then how is no one speaking about it? It's just crazy. Yeah, I'm one of the Empty Man cultists. There's a couple of us on the internet now. Yeah. In terms of TV, though, I've got my list here. I keep a list of every movie and TV series that I watch. And last year I watched 92 seasons of television, which is a lot. Yeah. And at the end of the year, I list them from best to worst. And up the top here, I've got The Shivering Truth, which is an Adult Swim animated series. It's like a short animated series. I think it's only like 6 episodes a season, and they're like 11-minute episodes. But there's more creative ideas in an episode of that than in like entire seasons of other TV series. It's just incredible. And I really love Search Party, Pen 15. I like The Boys, BoJack Horseman, Kipo. Oh, Tales from the Loop, I thought was great. I think that's on Amazon. Yeah, a lot of I watch a lot. I saw 4 films yesterday. 3 of them were at the cinema.
Oh, nice.
I try and see it as many things as I can. I soak it all up. You never know when you're gonna find inspiration in something. You never know when something's gonna trigger an idea. So I love watching kids films. I love watching drama. I love watching foreign films. I'll just watch everything.
Yeah, just all of it. Yeah, for us here, talking about going back to the cinema and actually sitting in a theater is more like we talk about, hey, let's go this weekend so that our favorite movie house doesn't shut down. It's one of those things, because they just kind of really got that going. And so we have this one locally that we just love, and it's a national chain, but they had to shut a lot of those down, and so they only kept a few, and we are lucky enough to have one of them in town. So it's just like, oh man, I need to go pay my $10 and go see that movie.
Definitely go out. Now is the time to go out and support where you can safely do so. Definitely. I've been going, wearing my mask and sitting, being the only person in the cinema, but it's great. I love going to the cinema by myself. And I'll just watch everything that they're playing. And they're playing a lot of random stuff that should probably be going straight to video, straight to streaming.
I had a movie follow-up question, because I really just want to get your opinion on this, I guess, or your recommendations. But I'm like, unfortunately, I'm kind of a big fan of 1, zombie movies, and 2, like found footage horror films. Do you have any recommendations in either of those categories or genres? Down the spot.
I recently was privileged to be part of the Soho Horror Film Festival, their Shockdown Saturdays, where they would play a double feature every Saturday night for the people in lockdown. And my film played on the second week, but a couple of weeks after that, they had a found footage night. And one of the films that they played there was I think it was a Spanish movie. I think it was a Spanish film that they played as like a surprise third film, and it was called 1974. I think it's got a subtitle, which is the possession of Altair. But yeah, 1974. And it was beautifully curated in this festival, in that it was just a QR code popped up on the Facebook page, and with nothing else, just a QR code. But if you tagged it, it just started playing this secret movie. And it was the best way to watch a found footage movie because you have no idea what you're watching going into it. And just knowing nothing about what it was and then seeing this play out, this 8mm horror, found footage horror film was quite exciting. And it was quite creepy as well. Like, I thought it was very effective. It is, yeah, it's hard to recommend films that you've seen that, like, recently at film festivals because you never know when people are going to be able to see them. I mean, in terms of found footage, I am just a huge fan of, like, Chronicle and Cloverfield. I love both of them.
Cloverfield. Great.
In fact, 10 Cloverfield Lane is one of my all-time favorite movies and was a big influence on our film. A huge influence on in terms of the pacing and the structure of it, and just always giving the audience going one step further than you think the film is going to go or the film is set up to go. Just always go that one extra step to give the audience a real bang for their buck. That's something that I learned from that film because it was so satisfying the way that it ended with this kind of character with female empowerment. It was like, yeah, you can just end like that. That's fine. Yeah,
they were great.
They're great. I mean, I am obsessed with found footage. There's heaps that I love. I think recently As Above, So Below was like unexpectedly fun.
I rewatched that movie. It's like my go-to like horror movie just to put on if I want to watch something. Yeah. Katie and I actually used to be archaeologists, so it kind of takes me back a little bit to like our archaeology days.
Playing in your wheelhouse.
I just want y'all to know that I'm sitting over here like my brain is taking me places, and a second ago I had to like shiver it out. I was like, no, stop it.
Yes. So good.
I don't want it. Stop it.
So I guess like speaking of being able to stream like movies that are currently in festivals, is there anywhere that people can stream An Ideal Host, or where can it be found?
At this very second, no.
Okay.
But the best thing that people can do is follow our Facebook page. I think it's Facebook/An Ideal Host, because I will be posting all of the, if we get into any festivals, any screenings coming up anywhere in the world, that's where it'll be announced, and you can follow along on that.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. I'm sure, Robert, you got to get your day started, but we both want to just say again, like, thank you so much for coming on the episode. It was one of those things where we're like, yeah, why not? We'll reach out to these, to the director and we'll see what happens. And then you responded and we were like, holy shit, it's happening. We're actually going to talk to the guy that made An Ideal Host. And
I'm loving talking about it. Yeah, no, it's great. I've been loving it. Being able to talk to people about the film is great. It's great feedback and learning a lot. So it's good.
Yeah. Well, we're happy that you guys are getting, some of that. We hope so, because you made something that was just it was super fun, hilarious. I mean, we were dying the whole time, and then sometimes just like completely shocked, like, oh my goodness. It was a treat. We were so happy to have watched that, and we just hope that you and the whole crew know, like, you did good, kid. You did real good.
It was so good. So good.
Thanks so much.
So, yeah.
And listeners, we'll drop the link to An Ideal Host's Facebook page. So definitely go there, follow them, and keep an eye out for where they are going to be showing it. Highly recommend doing a virtual film festival. It's a great way to consume a ton of movies in a short amount of time. So if you're a fan of watching indie films and getting scared, keep an eye out. And with that, again, Robert, thank you so very much. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to talk to you and kind of pick your brain a little bit and get those movie recommendations and everything. So thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Follow us on all the socials, all that jazz. Like, share, subscribe, leave a review. All of that helps the podcast tremendously. And with that, get to streaming. We'll see you next week. Bye.